Tell us about the origin story of Heal Mary. You mentioned it was a bit of a personal journey for you, which makes it even more meaningful. So tell us what that was like.
Yeah, so my mom is a stage 4 cancer survivor. And then in 2017, both of my sisters were diagnosed with early stage cancer. So it's something that's been part of our lives since then. And from that, we decided to build something from it that would help other patients and caregivers. And so Heal Mary was born, which is a platform that connects patients, caregivers, and doctors to clinical trials globally within seconds. So that's a bit of where we found a way to use technology to help the patient.
And from speaking with you previously, it sounded like when your mom got her diagnosis, it was a very dire conversation.
Yeah, I think that's the pivotal moment for me in this journey is clinical trials we know can manage, treat, and diagnose diseases from all different stages and types. It's not necessarily a dire circumstance. It's about making breakthroughs in science and medicine. And for me, though, personally, when my mom was told to go home and get her affairs in order, that was the first time for me that I realized that a patient needs to have options. And even if there are no options at this point in time, that there is the hope that an option could be made available at some point. For us, that was really important, is knowing that there were choices, there were other choices.
Tell us more about the oncology space, the scientific nature of the information, and how you make that more accessible to patients.
Absolutely. So one thing that I realized when I was searching for clinical trials as options is there are really two barriers to entry for the everyday person. And one being understanding that clinical trial, and two, ease of enrollment into that trial. And what I felt was there is an easy way to solve that with technology to start, little pieces of it that we could help make easier. So we use natural language processing to help translate medical terms to plain language. That way we can import a study exactly as is, exactly as the researcher intended, but just overlay translations on terms that the everyday person may not understand. And then the second piece of that, we built in easy to access and share accessibility and acceptance criteria. So now we know what the inclusion criteria is and the exclusion. If you aren't sure at any point, it gives you a chance to email a URL to your practitioner. So we're firm believers in the patient-empowered experience, but we also know it's a partnership with your practitioner, that we're trying to make it easy for everybody to get the best possible outcome. So that's really the strategy behind Heal Mary.
Sure, and to give our audience just perspective of the breadth and the number of oncology trials that you have translated. Give us some stats and numbers.
Well, I would say overall, right now, our database houses about 500,000 clinical trials that we've pulled and scraped together. Of the oncology ones, I would say we have a couple thousand available. As you mentioned briefly, we did take a pivot to COVID. For COVID, we have over 600 available and counting every day. So we basically scrape every single day. And that's, again, just drawing to that kind of nature, is all of these sciences and medicines are happening all over the world. And we just want to make it easier for people to access that information and know about it. And there's no person in the world that would know all 500,000 trials by heart. So, that's the bridge that we're trying to help with.
Yeah. So what is your vision ultimately for Heal Mary?
I think our vision ultimately is we want to be the leading patient-empowered platform. We want to enable patients to be able to look into healthcare solutions, personalized, customized healthcare solutions for them and their needs. And we want to make it easier and alleviate the time burden on practitioners. We think if you're all working together, your ability to find a solution is going to be much higher, much faster. And just giving people access to information, I think, is very, very powerful. As a caregiver, when you're sitting in a doctor's office and being told that someone you love is being diagnosed with something, do you have any questions? In that 15 minutes, you're still trying to diagnose and understand what exactly is happening and what this means. And so what happens is, one common experience we heard in all of our interviews with patients and caregivers is you go home at night and the first thing you do when it finally settles in is you Google. And it is a very information heavy way of doing things. There's a lot coming at you and yet really nothing at all, because your experience, your journey is going to vary slightly, your side effects. Even my sisters who were diagnosed within months of each other had different experiences and different side effects based on the drug's reaction to their bodies. So what we're understanding is that we need, at the point of time of need, to be able to give patients information or caregivers information, and then enable them to access more or get connected with the type of research and science that they would like to understand more about. Our website, which is healmaryapp.com, and we're on all social media feeds at healmaryapp. And then myself, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Cassandra Hui, and then on email at hello@healmaryapp.com. I would like to highlight too, if it's possible, we took a pivot towards COVID-19 about 8 weeks ago to help join in the cause to find a cure or manage or treat or diagnose this disease. And so what we were able to do with that is really understand not just the disease state, but we had a medical team of medical students who were sent home early from school, translating over 1,500 COVID-specific terms that now are in our system. And so what we would love also right now is to hear from any COVID patients or caregivers, help with that experience, because in the larger vision of this, we want to come out of COVID with everything that we learn. We want to return to the oncology space, but our learnings can be applied and scaled to every single disease state, rare diseases to things like osteoporosis and diabetes. We can cross all of them, because delivering just-in-time information to patients, that is scalable. So we're pretty excited to speak with anyone who's got COVID right now or is caring for someone with COVID, and then future, you're going to help us impact how we do this for future disease states.